So my name is Wendy Nelson, and I am at CISA 10. And I was one of the people at CISA 10 who was working on our implement trials within our CISA. And this year, we were working with the Loyal School District to try to implement some of these practices into fruition. And before I go into it, I echo a lot of the struggles and trials and tribulations that others have experienced as well. And I appreciate all of the vulnerability that everyone has been willing to share. I think it really helps me personally as I look to try to expand this throughout our CISA, how to be better and to make it more impactful. So I appreciate that. Just a kind of an outline of what I'm going to be talking about. So, I'm going to just talk kind of about why we picked this district, our initial timeline, and then all the pieces of that work, and then the challenges that we face in doing this. And then I do have a small little video of the two gentlemen who ended up doing the trials with us, and then some next steps for our work together. So why did we pick the Loyal School District? So a little bit of background for everyone is that um, we had at CISA 10 a previous consultant who did amazing work with UDL, Corey Welke, and she had to leave the position, and we all kind of came in and learned some new stuff. And Loyal was one of the districts that she had originally started work with. She had been doing some introductory stuff out there, so we thought this might be a good place for us to get our feet wet with this process, and to really work on making it more meaningful and impactful for that district. So that's one of the reasons we picked that. Another reason is that we had some strong working relationships with both the K-12 principal. This district is a small district, and they have a K-12 principal and a K-12 assistant principal, and one instructional coach whose primary focus is elementary. But we thought that they had they wanted to improve their inclusive practices, and they really were on board with it. And so that was another reason. A third point was their special ed director out there is actually a CISA 10 employee. So, and she's on our UDL team. So we figured that that would be a good way to create a linked team structure because she would be there, we would be there. She could provide support in that special ed realm. And we had some strong leadership, so we thought this was really good. And the other reason we looked at it was they were doing high reliability schools work, and they're looking at practices in the classroom. And so we thought this would be a perfect integration of that work. So that's initially why we picked this school district. The team that we ended up working with was myself. The special ed component of this was our RSN at CISA 10, Lindsay Schubert. And then we had two teachers who went through the process with us. Initially, we had thought that the instructional coach would do that, as well as a special ed teacher. So originally it was going to be the two CISA 10 people, and Lindsay was the special ed director at the time in district, and then three teachers, no, actually four teachers, and then kind of due to different things happening. So the instructional coach basically was at capacity with elementary Act 20 stuff. The special ed teacher no longer had been her duties had changed, so we kind of had to whittle down into just this core group. Um, so a timeline of what we had anticipated. So pre-work was in the spring of 24. We decided this was the group we were going to work with, and we really wanted to preemptively get some information out to the leadership team. So with the K-12 principal and vice principal, instructional coach at the time, and Lindsay as the special ed director out there, we had started attending their leadership meetings, working on leadership development using a book, and I'll talk about that in a second. So we thought we really had a good foundation in the leadership area. And then we spent the summer working on getting teachers in as well. The problem came between spring and fall. So between the spring and the fall, the principals, both of them left. and we had new principals arrive, but they were not onboarded really to the trial process. They had not gone through the book study. They did not internalize that work. So that was kind of where I think thinking back, right? You talk about how you want to you should put pause if it really feels like you need to pause. I probably should have paused at this point and said we need to get leadership really on board. But I was gung ho and I was like, nope, we're gonna do this. We had a couple teachers at the time who really wanted it. They were really hungry for it. So we kind of pushed ahead. And in retrospect, it maybe would have been a better choice to spend more time on that pre-work, that mindset work. But we pushed ahead. So that pre-work, that summer work with the leadership team, we did the UDL playbook for school and district leaders. We worked through that. And then to get the teachers ready in that summer pre-work, we did actually two Learning Lab book studies on Dive into UDL and Unlearning. These two books, it's a book study plus is what we call them at CISA 10, where you have an implementation project. So like we were trying to get teachers to kind of think about implementation as a precursor to the trials. So like who can we get who wants to like go the extra step and who's like, oh, this is great. I want to keep working on this implementation. I want to keep moving forward. So in the spring of 24, we did the leadership piece. In the summer, then we had several teachers from Loyal do our like summer learning labs implementation. And then we had a couple that really wanted to move forward into the trials. So that's what we did. And so they had a PLC structure or PLC meetings that they would do that were implemented by the previous leadership team and was continued at the beginning of the year by the new leadership team. And so I had planned out, we had done the planning. It was about a half an hour on Wednesdays after school. And because of the internal coach not being able to, not having capacity. And actually, Lindsay, who was the special ed director, got switched in her duties to something different. So we really did not have anything internal. So then I became the internal coach as well. And so I was planning out to come out to Loyal from CISA 10's about an hour for twice a month meetings. And it kind of, to start the process, to get the learning going with our goal to be third trimester, because they're on trimesters, to do the data collection and the implementation. So this is just a slide of the different pieces that I offered to the PLC group. We did have a running agenda. I did have an implementation plan. I had a learning resource, which was just basically any link that I found that they thought that they would appreciate. Um, um, Joanne and Michelle gave me some SLO PPG language so that I could use with them, which I appreciated and they appreciated, and then kind of a roadmap of what we were going to do. The one document here that I really personally, I kind of created for them to help kind of see, no, let's see if I can click into it. Let's see if I can click here. Was this document where and you guys can still see this, right? Where I kind of laid out, because they didn't quite know, like, what do you do? What do we do? What do we have to do? Like when teachers get new initiatives, it's really good to like lay out the roles. And so I created this document for them to kind of say, like, I do this. So I provide resources, I create the agendas, I help you with the data collection tool. And then I linked in the mentor role, and then I put like what we do together. So this is what we do in our meetings, and then what you do and your role in all of this. And this seemed to be a very helpful tool for the teachers that I worked with, because they were like, oh, okay. Oh, I get it. So like this is what you're gonna do. This is what we do together, and then this is what you do. So I really liked this document that I had created, and they seemed to really appreciate that as a laying out of roles. So that was kind of the initial. So the fall and winter of this year, we were working on getting everyone up to speed, making sure everyone was getting the information that they needed. I know in the toolkits they talk about doing an introduction that's like 3 hours. And again, just because of the structure of the school, I had to spread that out over a significant amount of time because I did not have that. I wasn't given a PD day. It was in their PLCs. About halfway through the year, in December-ish time, the leadership team decided they wanted to restructure the PLCs and refocus the PLCs in a different direction, which then left me less time to work with the team and to like move this work forward. So that was a little bit of a frustration. We did, let's see if it was this. So in some key like things that we did do, that we did get done, even with the changes, was we spent some time working with the book Shift to Student Led. If you've never read this one, this is a great one. I personally like this one because it feels real practical in that it has like 10, it gives you like 10 different things you could possibly do. And we kind of looked at that, and the team decided to work on student self-assessment as their focus. And there is a whole chapter in that book on self-assessment, which gave them ideas on how to do that. And then they picked, this picture here is one that I believe Kim had shared at one coaches meeting, and they really glommed onto that and loved that image. And so they kind of modified something like that for their engagement self-assessment. And then we did do discussions, which I think were great, around the engagement rubric. So we created our engagement rubric. Because of the shifts, we never did get a academic focus rubric completed. So we didn't collect data on that. And then, so we did start in third try collecting baseline data, and I did get some baseline data. The kind of hiccups that came about with that were because we were in third trimester, there were kids gone quite a bit. And then the teachers that I was working with were really like, can we we need a little bit more time to really implement this? Or like it really did kind of, the timeline wasn't as structured. And I think part of that was my not being actually in the building all the time and us not having an internal coach or a champion, you might say. So the challenges that we faced, I think, are three kind of fold. The first one was the leadership turnover and the leadership buy-in to the UDL trials, like why I was there, what I was doing, how I was trying to support their initiatives and not undermine their initiatives. Really having someone who's a champion to like internally, either a really strong teacher or a instructional coach or a principal who is in conversations with leadership is really important, and that we struggled with that. The change in our PLC structures and how they refocused everything was another challenge that we had. We would recommend early winter implementation and not spring, just with all of the sports that we had. We ran into absences and and field trips and all of those things as well. And another challenge that we ran into was that this was just a small group of people, and we had initially had the idea of just having it be a very small group of people. But then there were other teachers that felt like these teachers that were in this UDL trial were getting something that we weren't getting. And it really created some kind of animosity about my presence in the building. And then that created I think that's part of the reason the leadership was like, well, what are you doing here? And why are some of our teachers getting this good stuff and some of our teachers aren't, and not understanding like the process of it. And because of that lack of like all teachers being on board and knowing what the purpose was, it felt like to some it was another thing. And here's another person coming in to tell us what to do. And we're trying to do all this other things. So there was a little bit of of that in terms of challenges. I just want to at least get the gentleman, they couldn't be here today, but I at least want to get a video of the guys that I worked with who did do some of this. And so I do have, it's just a 4-minute little video where I ask them these 3 important questions. And you can see, hopefully you can hear, and yeah. Can you hear it? No.
We can't hear that. So if you unshare your screen and then reshare it with clicking those 2 buttons on your share, when it asks you which screen, there's 2 radio buttons that you have to click for optimizing.
Got it.
There you go.
High school. And I just have a couple of questions for you in terms of follow-up from your work with the implementation trial. So I just have 3 questions that I want you to feel honest to share with the implementation group about what you did, how it went. The first question for both of you is, why did you decide that you wanted to do this, or why did you get talked into it by me?
Sure, I'll start. I think mainly just because we've been doing this exploration in the UDL in general. I was interested in being led through a process where we're able to kind of start to actually bring some of the stuff into the classroom with some supports and doing it with a group of people so we can kind of bounce ideas off of each other.
I had participated last year in 2 of the UDL book studies through CISA 10, and I thought those were really just kind of eye-opening of the different processes that you can use with UDL, but we didn't have the opportunity to really dive in and implement the practices. So I thought this would be a nice opportunity to be able to see how we can implement them and to work with someone else. You're not working on your own, and it was a great time to collaborate and work together.
Wonderful. Second question then is, what was something from this that you took away that you felt you could use later or was meaningful for your classroom or your practice as a teacher?
Yeah, I think because our focus was on self-assessment and in an English classroom where you constantly feel like you have to grade every single piece of writing, look at every single paper, which takes lots and lots of time. Putting more and more of that power to the students' hands to be able to look at their own stuff also helps them improve their writing at the same time with some of those things. So just the use of, the strategy that we pick, utilizing it more often is just, I think, saving a lot of time and also help the students get better too.
And I think for myself too, with that student engagement, I was using a rubric or a picture that we had that showed the different stages and levels of engagement, and just putting that onto the students so that they could be directing their learning more so in the classroom rather than just me directing and encouraging them. It was nice for them to be able to reflect and then state why they ranked themselves the way that they did in each of the days that we did that.
Awesome. And then third question, what were the biggest challenges or hurdles or things that got in the way of this for you here?
Sure. I think the biggest thing we all met with was just time. Lots of things changing here, trying to find time to meet and set up all the experimental process, just making sure we're checking all of our boxes, making the way through those things. And then just, changing up your own habits is always challenging.
Yeah, I think very much the same thing. Is just the amount of time, and then also with identifying students to monitor, having them present each day was a challenge, especially during this 3rd trimester. So if we could move that to earlier in the year where we don't have so many disruptions in the spring like we have, I think that would help a lot. And also I think it would help with the consistency for what we're doing, where the students are there every day instead of hit and miss, which it seemed like we had a lot of that this trimester.
Was there anything else from this experience that you would like to share with someone who might be thinking about doing it? This is an off the cuff one. I totally didn't give them prep time, so I'm sorry. But anything else you would like to share?
I would say if anybody who's thinking about doing this and they're looking at, it's going to be a process, this and that, ultimately, whatever strategy you bring in is going to hopefully make you better. You'll learn something from anytime you're exploring your strategy. So I think it's just a really valuable thing to do in general, even if it ends up not working out the way you expect it to, you'll still find something in there to be useful, I think.
Yeah, the same thing, especially seeing if you can get more people involved, just so that there's more of a cohort to work with. so that you have varying experiences and just kind of reminding each other, you know, in the hallway, like, hey, remember we're doing self-assessment. I think that was a nice reminder. Rather than if you're doing it on your own, you're the only person staying on top of it. It was nice to have someone holding you accountable.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And I appreciate your time doing this little interview today, and hopefully we'll work together again. Thank you.
So, yeah, that was our little impromptu interview. I kind of sprung on them, and to just have a voice for the school as well. And then, let's keep going. Just next steps would be for like I have kind of 3 goals in looking forward for this UDL work. I've really become I feel like I personally have really become a UDL cheerleader, or whatever you might want to call that. But I really would like to leverage what we did in this trial with other CESA 10 districts. I know that I've talked to a few who might be interested in doing the trial process in the future. So that's one goal, is to use these teachers to help other teachers, convince other teachers that it's an important process. I do want to try to implement the 3-year UDL leadership plan to kind of bring that to other districts. And then our goal as a CESA is to try to integrate the idea of UDL into everything we do as a CESA. So like this year, we have had an alliance group between our special ed personnel and our regular ed personnel, and we've done a book study on UDL, really like integrating all, like, so that we're all speaking the same language when we go out to schools, and have it be rooted in that accessibility for all students, be it your special ed students or your advanced, gifted, and talented students. So that's really our goals moving forward. And then that's it. Thank you so much for the ability to do this and for your time.